Go to the gentleman from Virginia, the Chair of Oversight and Investigations, Mr. Griffith, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Director Dorman, I've been working on so-called mandatory hearings and the Efficient Nuclear Licensing Hearings Act. Could you briefly talk about the current mandatory hearing process, what steps normally take place in the license application before a mandatory hearing takes place?
Thank you, Congressman. Briefly, when an application comes in, the NRC staff conducts a safety evaluation and an environmental impact statement. And in parallel with that, the Advisory Committee on Reactor Safeguards provides an independent review of the salient portions of that. Once the staff has completed its work, it goes to the Commission, and there's a period of preparation for the hearing, and then the Commission conducts the hearing, and then the Commission issues its decision.
And in what cases is a mandatory hearing initiated, and what type of preparation is required other than what you just told us?
So the mandatory hearing is in uncontested events for production utilization facilities, basically for nuclear power plants as well as certain fuel facilities, it's conducted in any uncontested proceeding, but it doesn't impact the ability of any interested party to request a hearing.
And that's what gets interesting. And who are the participants in that so-called mandatory hearing when it's uncontested?
So in the mandatory uncontested hearing, the participants are generally the Commission and the staff.
Okay, Commission and the staff. So then let's get to the contested hearing and the differences between a contested hearing, the mandatory hearing, and an adjudicatory hearing.
So you're going a little bit outside my expertise because I'm an engineer, not a lawyer. But I think in the case of the contested hearing, it is an adjudicatory proceeding, and a person who's raising a concern with the application, in my understanding, that I'm not a lawyer, they need to demonstrate that they have standing. In other words, they are impacted by the action, and that they have admissible contentions.
So here's my question. Is it vital? I understand you might have to do some hybrid work in there, but is it vital that you have in an uncontested case that mandatory hearing? I understand if somebody's got a contest, if somebody brings forward an objection, if they have standing and they've got some concerns, I don't want to cut anybody off from being able to come forward, but do you have to go through a formal mandatory hearing process if it's uncontested? I understand lawfully you do. I'm saying, is it necessary for the safety of the operation of that licensee or the person that's come before you?
I don't believe it is, sir.
All right. Finally, are you familiar with the, check my time, are you familiar with the 2008 NRC proposal on the Atomic Energy Act transmitted to then Speaker Nancy Pelosi? Yes or no? And didn't the NRC propose eliminating the uncontested hearing at that time?
Yes and yes.
Okay, so they did propose that. All right. I appreciate it greatly, and I yield back.